Hello, I'm Beverly Ward. I am the Field Secretary for Earth Care for Southeastern Yearly Meeting of the Religious Society of Friends. This year, I am clerking the Water Circle for the Earth Care Coalition for the UN International Decade for People of African Descent. We're planning an event, a side event, during the High-Level Political Forum for Sustainable Development on 11 July 2018 in New York. More information about that event will be available, but it will be held at the Salvation Army Social Justice Center. I'm here today with Nancy, and Nancy, I'll ask you to introduce yourself. I'm introducing her informally as Nancy because we have a friendship that goes back 4 years. So I'll turn it over to you, Nancy. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Beverly. Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Abwalaba. I'm a lecturer at Ikwani University, that is in Kenya, in East Africa. And I met Beverly some time back in India. It was such an interesting meet because we have followed it up with friendship, and I was very, very keen, and I'm still keen on doing at least one academic paper with you, Beverly. However, I have been involved in the Quaker program, and last year I really wanted to come to the UN side event, but it was not possible because of the financial requirements, which I did not have money to travel to that place. However, I still sent my work, and it was presented by one of the Kenyans in the US. This year, I also have prepared something that I would like to present, and I would really be grateful if I manage to come all the way to New York, because I know when I present the work myself, when I present myself there are quite a lot of issues that I'm bound to get back to my country. For example, I might have an opportunity to meet some of the people presenting their work in person, to network, to compare notes, to exchange ideas in person. And because we are dealing with water, and I have prepared something to do with water, when I come back, I'm sure I'll have gotten quite a lot from those presenters. Being in Kilifi, and Kilifi having issues with water, terrible issues with water, we actually, though next to the Indian Ocean, we are having terrible issues with water, waterborne diseases. When it rains, it floods and all that. It would be important for me to come and find out exactly how other people handle these issues in their countries as we network, as we compare notes. This would be important to the community in Kilifi. I could also bring back information to my students so that we can educate my students on exactly what happens in other areas, and also link them to people out there. Also, the lecturers could have a meeting in the School of Education and give a feedback so that whatever ideas I'll get from there can be cascaded on so as to help this community and even beyond Kilifi community. And also the Ministry of Environment, I could get in touch and share what I have learned from New York, so that we can see how to sort out issues of water. Currently, right now, as we speak in Kenya, there are floods that are actually killing people. If you go net, you'll see that. Floods are sweeping people. We have actually lost close to 100 people in different parts of the country due to floods. And so it will be an interesting opportunity given to me so that I can get to know some of the strategies that are applied, some of the people that I can get in touch with when we are handling issues of water and so on. So I would really, really, really be grateful if you gave me an opportunity just to visit New York and do all this.
Thank you, Nancy. I like to go back a little bit to how we met, and I think it would be interesting for people to know this story. We met, I believe, in New Delhi. Yes. In passing, and I was there doing a a trip in 2014 to help someone promote a book and doing some lecturing myself. And I was actually leaving New Delhi, and our paths crossed literally as you were going into the building and I was leaving the building. Will you share a little bit about what you were doing in India, please?
Okay, I went to New Delhi in 2009. I was a lecturer in a teacher training college with a master's degree, and I was very keen on advancing. And so I happened to get a scholarship, a very, very competitive scholarship. It was actually for Africa, and there were two students who managed to get this scholarship, one student from South Africa and one from Kenya who happened to be me. And so we were taken to New Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru University for my PhD. So actually when we met, I was on the last year of my studies, very eager to go home and very eager to meet people and very eager to do 1, 2, 3. And so when I saw, I was really excited. I was like, oh, here comes a new person, because in India it's very easy to tell, especially in JNU, when somebody's new. And I'm like, oh, hi, what are you doing? I definitely knew you were doing something to do with research or something. So I was very keen on, oh, can we do a paper with you or something like that? Where do you come from? I was very, very eager to learn all that. And that's how we met.
Yeah, it was very interesting because you invited me to tea and I had already left New Delhi, but we kept in contact, and it has been, as you mentioned, it has been grown into a friendship. And in addition to the work that we're doing in the water circle, you mentioned that you participated last year in the Food and Land Circle and have become a partner on our work on the International Decade. I also am very interested in continuing our work, particularly around the work that you've done on women's issues, both not only in the land and water circle, but your work on gender budgeting. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. When I went through school in Kenya, the issues of gender had not become, they were not in the academic circle. Now we have women's studies, which is now taken in the, in the universities and even in schools. But when I went through school, that issue was not there. Yet it was a passion for me. I was very keen on women issues. I was very keen on gender. Having come from the village and having seen how women are treated, I was like, there must be a solution. Yet I could not go through a class to learn issues of women, unlike today. So when I got an opportunity to go to India, it was my passion. I was going there to do my PhD in education, but you can see I cleverly included the issue of gender, and that is how I came up with gender responsive budgeting. And in our constitution, that was the new constitution, which we started in 2010, issues of gender are quite a thorny area, So I thought, okay, fine. If I could look at what India is doing, because India is quite ahead when it comes to issues of gender responsive budgeting, and then look at my country, maybe I would have something for my country. And indeed, apart from having this, having done that area, I have also edited a handbook in gender budgeting written by Katrine Snyder, which is now being used by the Kenyan Women Parliamentarian Association. We call it KEWOPA. They heavily rely on this book. So I'm glad I have participated in one way or another issues of gender in this country. That is how I came up with gender responsive budgeting in my area of research. And I'm still pursuing it. Even as we talk, I've just finished a meeting on this area, and I'm planning to educate, not really educate, but to raise awareness in the women of Kilifi. So we have organized for workshop for 2 days, 26th and 27th, just to raise awareness, to alert them that there is this that we look at when we are looking at the budget, we have to be careful to look at it from gender perspective to see how the budget impacts on the men, the women, the boy child, the girl child, and so on. So on 26th of this month and 27th, I'm going to have a workshop where I want to raise awareness because they are not aware at all. Yeah.
Well, Nancy, you certainly helped to raise my awareness. One of the things that I've done recently that we will definitely, I would like to pursue is I did a small local project where we were trying to look at the status of women in a local county. And one of the things that I looked at was we could talk about women's needs, but we couldn't really identify how much funding, public funding, was being directed at women. And so my thinking from some of your work was we can identify the need, but can we also identify what resources? How is the existing budget responsive to the needs of women? What is the baseline? So that was very important for me, and I'd like, as I said, I look forward to working more with you on this because we both know a lot of the research suggests that when you invest in women, you invest in the community. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, go on.
Yeah, so I think I would be very keen to look at exactly what you have been doing in this area. This is something you haven't mentioned to me, that you're actually interested in that area. You're mentioning it now. So I haven't looked at your work, but what you're asking is really important. What is the basis, what's the baseline that we have to look at when we are allocating at the resources and so on? Well, there are quite a number of issues that we can look at, and when it comes to gender budgeting, I specifically narrowed into the education sector for my thesis, whereby we are looking at what are some of the programs that can really support either the girl child or the boy child to move on in education. So we are looking at what are some of the challenges that surround these people that hamper them from, going on so that we can have a program that can support this child into school. And initially, in my thinking, I thought it was the girl child. But where I went to do my research, some area that I went, I realized the boy child is not in school. So now, if you have a program that is going to sponsor the girl child, to support the girl child in such an area, then you can see what you're doing to the boy child. And so it became apparent that it depends on the situation, it depends on who is disadvantaged, so that you can come up with programs to support those that are disadvantaged to catch up with those that are advantaged.
Right.
And that is in the school system. Because in one area I found the girls are not there, in another area I found the boys were not in school. So we cannot have a blanket policy. We cannot afford to have a blanket policy. Actually, that's what we would end up calling gender blind policies, Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we have to look at the various regions and their shortfalls and their which particular group we need to support. If we are talking about the women, like in Kilifi, even business is not there. So if you come again in Central Province where they're doing very well in business, then you look at Kilifi, then you realize that Kilifi need to be supported, to be put in small groups so that these women can start some small income generating activities. Unlike Central, where they already are in those groups, so what do we need to do in order to push them ahead? We cannot apply the same strategy that we would apply in Kilifi. So again, it varies depending on the situation that you find yourself in, depending on the regions that you find yourself in. Yeah. And in some regions, like Northeast, school is not just there. It is not just there because these people move from place to place. And therefore, in that area, again, you have to apply a different strategy. Different programs have to be put in place to support the, both the girl child and the boy child to be maintained in school. Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to and have begun what the intersection of your work with some of the work I'm doing had to do with what we call in the States extreme events, which can be anthropogenic or human-induced extreme events like chemical spills or so on. And of course, our intersection is with climate disruption and water issues. And what I'm looking at is what we call transition or recovery after one of these events, and how can we as you said, we can't have gender blind policies, but some of the research suggests that we have not looked enough at focusing on women's needs or children's needs in terms of recovery or transition. And as we respond to climate disruption, I think it's important that we do look at how we can help women in terms of climate disruption and recovery or transition to after these events.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. And even children, children
Yes.
and women. That sounds good.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think this is something I would be interested in looking at as you look at it. So maybe now we will have to converge at some point.
We definitely, yes.
Yeah, in this work and then come up with what is required, in the process of transitional recovery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new something I hadn't thought about.
Well,
yeah. So even as I'm looking at gender responsive budgeting, I thought by now Kenya would be ahead, so that now we can start looking at child responsive budgeting. Yeah, because it is another area that has quite a lot to do, especially in Kenya.
Right. Well, as we go through climate disruption, quite often what happens, and particularly, as you know from your research with education, children aren't able to continue their education if they've been displaced. So, so how, so they lose time in school, then that means the next generation is not prepared. So you're extending your look at child budgeting also is, let's think about how can we have education continue during displacement.
Mm-hmm. And that is a problem we have had in Kenya, especially the 2007-2008 post-election violence, where we found that we had our own internally displaced persons, IDPs, staying in a camp. Of course, they were put in some school. And of course, school could not continue in those camps. School could not just continue. I mean, they were looking for food, it's raining, it's flooding where they're staying, and they're all there, all kinds of manner. And for sure, some of the children ended up dropping out of school, leave alone taking long. They actually dropped out of school. Some got married, some became thugs, survival tactics. They did not end up well. Very few IDPs children have actually maintained, they actually went through school, but majority, we just lost them. I may not have the numbers, but again, as you are talking about children and displacement and transition recovery, I think that is one area we can look at the numbers. If we can get, it would give us a lot of, it would support our work. But I know we lost children for sure in this IDP, confusion and displacement. Internally displaced persons, leave alone moving to another country. We are talking about our own country. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly why I think your work is so important. We've talked a little bit about what has happened in the U.S. with internally displaced people. For example, people being displaced from Puerto Rico and moving to Florida. Are those education programs following them? How are they being received? these are global issues now, and that's the importance of the work that I believe that we're trying to do with the Quaker Earthcare Witness and the International Decade of People of African Descent, is that it's not just Kenya, it's not just Puerto Rico and Florida. These are global issues that we can exchange strategies and learn from each other. And so I think it would be, that's why it's so important that we have maintained our friendship and want to continue to collaborate and to expand this this collaboration to others.
Yes, that is true.
Well, Nancy, anything else you'd like to add?
I think we have exhausted what I wanted to mention. But that getting together and learning from one another and extending the networks and cascading the work that has been, whatever I get from there to others, so that it can help those others who are not there in person, is very important to me. It's really, really important. Yes.
Me too, and I love the thought of cascading the knowledge. So we're very much in sync with that. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you in cyberspace, and we will continue to press on. Goodbye now, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye. You too.
Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yes. Okay.